Will,
Hey, buddy.
what's up, my man?
What's up, dude?
Sorry
How we
about
doing, buddy?
good, man. Sorry about messing up the time. I thought I had a couple more hours and forgot we're in different time zones.
Yeah, we're totally different time zones. We couldn't be more different time zones in the United States at least, right? You're in
Yeah,
Cali, I'm in Boston, so
yeah,
yeah, we got that mixed up, but here we are. We made it.
we made it. Did you grow up in Boston?
Yeah. I grew up, so I'm like on the suburbs of Boston,
Okay.
but like 15 minutes from like the inner city. I mean, Boston's small, so like it's pretty easy to get in and out of, except when you're driving in Boston, it's not. But when you're in the burbs where I am, it's a lot easier to just get in, get out real quick.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
how
I did.
yeah. I'm outside. I'm like 20 minutes outside San Francisco. If you drive there, it's a nightmare, but if you are where I'm at, it's not too bad.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Will had a liver transplant and a kidney transplant.
yeah, man. I drank myself to a liver transplant and a kidney transplant, unfortunately, to get my wake up call. Took a long time to figure out what the hell I was doing with my life, and it got to the point where I was drinking myself to death. Like from like 34 to 36 is when I got the transplant itself, and from like 34 to 36, I was basically drinking a handle, so 1.75 milliliters every 2 days. So it was rough, man. It was really rough. A little backstory. I'll give you a little backstory. So I've been a teacher, middle school teacher, believe it or not, for 13 years, and um, I don't know where it started. I think I just always had an alcohol problem. I mean, from like the age of 14, I honestly did like the first sip of booze. It like just totally took over my body, took over everything. Like I loved it so much from such a young age. It was crazy. I know that it's in my family. Like my father has it. I'm sure his father had it. I don't remember, although I don't remember him that much. He died young, so but I know he was a big drinker, and it's just in the family. And then yeah, man, it was a crazy situation that I put myself into. Um, all self-inflicted. Um, didn't know how to cope with my problems, didn't know how to cope with like the world. And alcohol was like my best friend, but it was also the thing that killed me. So, well, almost killed me. I drank myself up to 2 weeks left of life. That's what they said I had left. And then eventually, by the grace of God, finally, found a hospital that would transplant me. Because are you familiar with like the rules that go into transplant process?
Not really. A little bit. I know you have to be like 6 months sober or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to be 6 months sober. I was not. I was about four because I was so sick that I was like in and out of hospitals. They were just trying to treat me, and they were basically like, "This guy's done." Because I tried to get sober in 2020 when COVID hit, and I was drinking like my face off, man. Like it was just crazy every single day, just drinking to oblivion. That's how it felt. And then my wife was like, "Okay, you got to go in. You got to go see what's up." And so I did. They detoxed me for a week, and then one of the doctors he looked at me and he's like, "Hey man, like you got to cut the booze. You got to stop what you're doing." Like I was 250 pounds, just huge. Like I'm 175 now, so it just shows you like this is how big I was. And yeah, man, it just got out of control, out of control, out of control. But yeah, so I did that first stint of sobriety. I did so when that doctor told me that like you got to cut the booze, like I did listen to him. I was like, okay, got to cut the booze. And I stopped and I went completely cold turkey, like by myself, which was crazy. And I did 125 days. So basically like 3.5 months. And then, old feelings. I had a huge argument with my wife. And then next thing I know, like I'm just in the liquor store and I don't even know like how I got there. And I took a bottle and I felt like I was making the worst decision of my life, which I was in hindsight. And then I brought it home, didn't drink it for a week, which was weird. Just didn't like I knew it was wrong to buy the booze and bring it home. But that second that I bought the booze, kept it in the room, hid it under like a bunch of socks and underwear or whatever. And then I got in like a huge argument, like one of the worst ones with my wife, because when you get sober, man, like it's awesome, but like your problems are still going to be there in the morning, and everything that was leading up until making the decision to get sober and getting detox and everything, like I didn't realize that how much need that you need that how much support that you need to get into to do sobriety correctly. And I had too much of like an ego, hubris, whatever you want to call it, to think that I needed help, which is obviously like a huge component with people relapsing or falling off the wagon like I did. And that's what happened, man. I fell off the wagon from that huge argument with my wife. And then next thing I know, I was like, the next 2 years was like a blackout. I don't even remember it. Like I was working kind of, I think. It was just all over the place. It's hard to remember like everything because it was just so blurry. But yeah, man, crazy. It's a very long, crazy story, but I don't want to take up the entire time
Yeah,
just
yeah.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Your story's out there, so people can definitely look you up or look you
Oh
up.
yeah, I I've been on a few podcasts. I've told this story a million times, but
Yeah.
yeah, every time I tell it, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh my God, I forgot about that. So it's
Yeah,
like there's always these things that pop up on every time I get into that story and start telling it again. There's always something new that
for
comes up.
sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, I saw a picture of you. You look like Homer Simpson.
Yes.
And,
Funny enough, man, or interestingly enough, I was actually teaching. So, like I said earlier, I'm a middle school teacher. So I was actually teaching at the time, and I was so yellow, and I was in like I was like just in crazy denial, and I was up teaching, and then this is like when it was really, really bad. This is like 2022. And I'm like just a mess, man. Like I can't think. My brain's all messed up from all the booze. Like I can't function because I'm physically dependent upon it. My skin's turning yellow. Like my face was like weirdly skinny, but my stomach was like huge from all like the ascites fluid buildup. From like my liver not being able to process the toxins. So my skin turned yellow, became jaundiced, and my point is that with the Simpsons thing, like I looked like a Simpsons character. One of my students actually said that to me. And it was like a knife, like a dagger through my heart. And I dismissed it because like, what do you do in that situation? I just said, um, yeah, like which one? Like Homer, Bart, Lisa, like whatever, just make a joke of it, make light of it. But man, it killed me. And then that's when I remember like after that day, I was like, well, I'm already dead. Might as well just drink myself to death now because that's how much I was suffering, dude. It was terrible. It was absolutely nightmare.
yeah, yeah. I never got that far. Does it come on like suddenly, like the jaundice and all that, or is it kind of a slower thing and
It's weird.
or you don't
Like
even notice it?
like you're feeling like crap, and then one day you start noticing that you're like you just look terrible, you feel terrible, and then you start noticing your skin looks like dry and papery, and then you're like putting lotion on and whatever, and then next thing you know, like yeah, as like the days go on, you start noticing like where I started noticing was my eyes were like super tinted yellow. And then like the more abuse you do to your liver, like I was doing, the yellower and yellower it gets to the point where you don't even like look like a human anymore. You look like I don't know, just a dying man. That's how I looked. And yeah, that picture that you're referencing, that was actually immediately after the liver transplant. So that I looked even yellower before that, but no one was taking pictures. Like I wasn't encouraging pictures before, uh, the 2 weeks up until the transplant itself. So if you could only see like those ones, you'd be like, oh my God, like, you even looked worse. But yeah, the one that you're talking about was right immediately after the surgery itself was like three days. I mean, it was I went to sleep on a Monday, woke up on a Thursday. That's how sick I was. It's pretty crazy.
So when I was like kind of towards the end of my drinking, I would drink. I was a vodka drinker too, and
Was
the
there a
next
particular
day,
vodka that you liked, or was it just whatever
you know,
vodka?
well, it was a lot of just. I live like three doors down from a local or like a mini mart, and they have just bottles of Smirnoff.
Yeah, that's what I was drinking Smirnoff because it was like
Yeah,
$20 for the biggest one. So
yeah,
I would get that big plastic one that was like you could like it was like, moldable. You could like bounce it. And the reason I would do that was because I was so crazy that I would like know that I could stick it underneath like any part of my car.
yeah,
It would like stay still and not shake and rattle because I would
yeah,
get my wife would
yeah.
catch that. And that's just like the mind of an alcoholic, man. Like I knew every little ins and out of like hiding it to the best of my ability. Um, but then eventually you always slip. always slip up, whether that because you're just drunk, you don't your mind's not working correctly, and then and my wife would find like the hidden bottles. So what I would do, man, I would actually take the huge bottle and I would put them into like little Poland Spring bottles, and I would just hide them everywhere, like all over the my apartment, um, in my car. My car was like the place where I would hide the most alcohol because I knew that I could always go there and find it. And then when I didn't have it, man, that's when things got ugly. I became like this Jekyll and Hyde dude. I just became a mess. I was angry. I would lash out, say hurtful things, all, all because I was addicted to alcohol. I just was. It was just a compulsive, physical, and like emotional and psychological dependency on alcohol. It was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Jekyll and Hyde because I've always wondered if that story was inspired by addiction
Yeah,
because
I
it's
bet it.
very
I bet there's definitely components to it that work.
yeah,
Hmm.
because it's very much like that. And it's kind of funny when I was getting sober and afterwards and being around other people that have problems. Um, it's different. Like when you have the problem, you think everybody knows that you're mad and angry because you don't have this, and it's like
Hmm.
you don't realize how much other people don't know. Like it's really hard when I'm around people that have problems and I'm not sure if they're using or not because it
Hmm.
moves up and down, but I don't know for sure. And I don't know if that's just how they are,
Yeah.
especially people I don't know really well. Um, and
I'm pretty good at like picking that up because
yeah, I've gotten
it
better.
was it was my life, man. I lived it. So I
Yeah.
kind of do have a keen sense of like knowing if someone's fucked up or not, you
Yeah, and
know?
I definitely have more than the average person ability to see that, but
Hmm.
it did kind of shock me that it still is kind of tough
Hmm.
sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And it does really kind of speak to our families that are just like, yeah, they're kind of dealing with us. They're not sure. They don't want to offend us.
Well, that's a huge part of the story too, is like, or anyone's story with addiction is like the loved ones that are associated with us, like they want to be helpful, they want to help, and they want us to be better, but they don't get it. I mean, that was like the hardest part with my wife and I, because she was like this perfect person. I mean, like honest to God, like she had like it seemed like she has like no fault, like faults. So trying to explain to her what physical dependency on alcohol and like the psychological dependency on alcohol does to you, it was hard to relate to her because she wanted me to just stop, right? And I wanted to stop, but like I said, like the physical, the psychological, like all those things she didn't get. And I was too much of a egomaniac to realize that I wanted to do it on my own and I could beat this thing on my own. But I just couldn't. I just didn't realize I just needed help. Like, and that's like so important. Like, just ask for help, man. Like, right when you notice that alcohol is affecting you in any way whatsoever negatively, whether that be your work, whether that be your relationships, whether that be your whatever, man. If you're getting up late in the morning and you should be getting up at 7 instead of you're getting up at 10, whatever. Anything if it's affecting anything negatively, you got to look inward and say, okay, I have to be vulnerable in this situation. I have to reach out for support because I cannot do this on my own. I really wish I understood that from much younger age instead of just trying to figure it out on my own. That was stupid.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I've always been like a willpower guy and like been proud
Yeah.
of having that ability to have willpower. And with the problem with addiction is it's a motivational disorder. And so it changes your motivations towards that substance. And now all that willpower, man, it just hijacks your thinking and hijacks what you want. And you use that willpower to get the thing you want rather than get away from it sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's what I called my show. So it's interesting that we're using that word so much right now because it's true. Like I didn't have that willpower, and now by creating a show with that title in it, um, it's funny that it's like that's also like my show in a sense is actually like my AA, because
Yeah,
AA for me was
that's what
I
mine
did it a
is too.
bunch and but there were times it works there and then there were many times it didn't. So by me creating my own show and having like this accountability factor associated with my life now, that's what keeps me on the straight and narrow. Talking to people like yourself and just being able to kind of have these conversations always they always lift me up. They keep me accountable. They keep me in line with what my mission is, like how I'm going to live my life now, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly been my experience. Like I did AA in and out, and like it had definitely has benefits and definitely is a lifesaver in situations. And I got to the ninth step, and fourth and fifth were really helpful for me. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think it has limits, and like you're kind of forced to hang out with a certain type of crowd that I
Hmm.
was ready to kind of move on from. And and then when I tried to start my channel, I got a lot of resistance from AA people. They were like
Really?
the biggest resistance I had was from AA people. So
Why?
that was really like, nah, I think I'm gonna go do this. And then I finally
Why were they resisting you for trying to do
because
something to better yourself? That's stupid.
yeah, because it was promoting like they didn't think I should be talking about AA and stuff online because you know how they have
Oh,
the no promotion rule. And then
gotcha.
the other thing was that like you can't do it on your own. You have to have AA. Like you can't.
Yeah,
I don't know, dude. It was
there is like that element to it, right? Isn't there? Like this is
yeah,
like the end
the
all be
only
all
way.
of recovery, and they get a little offended. Like I get lit up all the time by people in AA because I never discredited AA. I know a ton of people. I mean, I jump into meetings like
Me too.
if I'm feeling like like shit and I have no motivation that day and I feel like the old me, I'll jump into a meeting quick and just kind of, get that quick jolt of oh yeah, this is like it's not just me. Like there's other people, and sometimes you catch like a really great meeting and you're like, oh, thank God I went to this one. So
Yeah,
I am not discrediting an AA, but I do talk often about how there are other options, like how my channel and like other people's, there's so many silver channels out there that help people, but how beneficial that can be. And I feel like they look at that like it's not the way. If it's
and
not AA, it's not, you can't get sober. It's like, dude, you can do a little bit of everything, man. Like it's like a potpourri of figuring out like how to get over this disease because it's not just one way, man. That's so like an antiquated way of looking at
yeah,
recovery.
yeah. It's exact. I'm the same way, dude. I hop in online Zoom meetings all the time. Just
Yeah.
get that jolt that you're talking about. It's crazy. And that's one thing with like people that are newly sober. I always tell them online AA meetings because you can just be anonymous. You don't even have to turn your camera on. It's
Hmm.
right there. They're every half hour.
Oh, it's great.
It's amazing.
And
And
the meetings app is great too. Like
yeah,
I wherever you are, I'll go on my meetings app and just like see like where if like, if I need to jump into a meeting quick, I'll just go on the meetings app and see where I am located, like in where the closest one is, and I'll just pop in. So
yeah. The
that's
meetings.
huge. Knowing that there's like always something like you just
Mhm.
gotta go drive to it and figure it out where it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and people that are listening, the meetings app, it's a picture of a chair and you go on it and it automatically tells you every meeting coming up and how far away it is from you. So it's super helpful.
Super helpful.
And the cool thing about the Zoom meetings is like, dude, I'll do them in like Ireland and like the
Yeah.
UK. So you kind of feel like you're
It is
traveling.
cool.
I've met people. I interviewed a guy from Australia that I met in
Yeah.
a meeting, and I was just like, dang, this is crazy.
You feel like you're traveling like
You
that.
feel like
It's
you're
true.
traveling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, you guys do this over here too.
Yeah,
You're a
yeah.
mess like you're a mess over here too. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's talk
exactly.
about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. The other thing I always tell people is start a channel. Like you're gonna because what you said, that's what it is for me is like I can't drink tonight because I got to interview Will tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there is
Well,
a bad
there's a lot of that.
there's a lot of that.
It's a lot of just planning out your day because of like I said, the accountability factor is like so instrumental in the recovery process, man. Like if you don't have someone, like I know it sounds crazy, but you can be a grown adult, whatever. Like if you definitely need someone like checking in on you, making sure that you're staying true to this thing because it's really easy to just fall off if you're trying to do it by yourself. Like you need to have that sponsor. That's why sponsors are awesome. Like that's probably what was one of my favorite parts of AA was having a sponsor. Um, and him having like just shooting like a quick text every now and then, like checking in, like, hey man, just checking in. Like that stuff is so killer because it's like there's someone out there, like making sure that you're staying on your path, and if you're not, like they'll send you a call or whatever and be like, okay, what's going on, man? Like Let's figure this out so you don't make the stupid decision that you'll regret tomorrow.
Yeah, and we were talking before we started about family and like how my relapse was, over Christmas and kind of getting ready to see family is always a hard thing for me. Um, if you come from a family that for whatever reason, and it's not like I have a bad family, I love my family, they're great. It's just I fall into that role. There's the things that just I see why I'm an addict when I'm around my family. Like I see
Hmm.
what's happened, not blaming anybody, but I just see a lot of patterns and things that just are so triggering for me for some reason. Um,
Totally. I can
but
relate.
with
I can
with
relate.
yeah, but with like so what I found with like AA and doing this channel is it's like a different family, as kind of
Hmm.
cliche as that is like you like with a sponsor, you kind of get parented by this person a little bit. So you kind of get a little bit of parenting from outside your family, which is probably what you need. It's what I needed. You get different perspectives than like what your family has to offer.
Yeah.
And you get like acceptance, you make friends. Like it is kind of like a second family. You're talking about really personal issues that usually only talk to with like your parents or a close friend with,
Hmm.
maybe not even them because they're embarrassing, right? Or they're,
Yeah.
especially with
Sure.
addiction.
Yeah, like family is, I mean, that is a huge, I mean, like we were talking off air about it, but yeah, it is such a huge part of for me at least. I mean, like I just felt like such a failure in front of my family that it would make me drink more, if that makes sense. Like I felt like I wasn't living up to the expectations of like my father, who, it's weird, but like he passed away, and he was the best. Like he was the best, most he was like the most inspirational dad ever, because he I knew he had a drinking problem too, but he he was like from the camp of like the old school, like, don't have a drink until like 5 p.m. Like I would watch him, like it's crazy, dude. But yeah, he was the only one I could actually relate to in that sense, because like my mother was fine. My brothers, well, one of them I told you about off air, who kind of has some issues, but and I hope he gets help. I, I can't force him to get help. That's the thing that sucks. Like you can't force your family members to get help, or yourself to get help until you want to get help, right? That's so important. I feel like that's such an important part of getting sober, is like you have to finally admit that like I can't control this thing. Like I can't do it on my own. I need support. I need help.
But step
Yeah.
one.
Step one, man. You gotta ask. You just gotta ask. You be like, okay, I gotta admit this is like an issue. I have to figure this out, because it's just gonna follow you along the rest of your life until you actually do address it.
Yeah, there's a cool thing that somebody said. Um, we were talking off air again about like problems and everything, but like my life is like at an all-time low as far as like money and possessions, but I'm actually pretty happy. So it's like, is it an all-time low? I don't think so, you know. But when you get sober, like it's like you've been running from your problems and you're afraid to admit your problems and you're afraid to admit all this stuff and you're running, trying to outrun it. And then you stop drinking, you get sober, and now you don't have the ability to run anymore. And so all your problems catch up. And so
Yes.
now you have to deal with them because you can't outrun them anymore because you can't use a substance. And so you figure out how to deal with them. You figure out how to have these emotions. You survive it, which even if you didn't handle it perfectly, getting through it and not using is building experience, right? It's
Yes.
building your experience of dealing with things without relying on that crutch you've always relied on, which gives you a sense of pride. Um,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
and then once you deal with that, now you no longer have to run, now you
Yes.
can handle them as they come. And that's kind of what I tell people again when they're getting sober is like, dude, it's gonna suck for a little while. It just is
It's
because
gonna suck for a while. I mean,
yeah,
for me, like when I did those 3.5 months, man, like I every single day was a struggle, but I kept, I'm like, I just gotta get through this, instead of doing the other things like addressing, seeking support, asking for help, asking from, even to my wife, being like, just can you be a little little patient with me? Like maybe not be as like whatever aggressive with like the word choices that you use. I know it sounds crazy, but like those little triggers like will just set you off. So, if you are getting sober and you're trying and you're struggling, that those first 3 months are crucial, because you need to do it with support. You need to do it with I feel like I'm telling, no, no, you don't need to do anything I'm saying. I'm just saying these are the things that help me, but Yeah, seeking support, getting admitting that you have an issue and reaching out for help because you can't do it on your own. Keep harping back to that, but it's so true. So true. You can't do it on your own. You need
Yeah, and when
help.
you're newly sober, like it's that saying thick skin, you need thick skin.
Hmm.
But when you're newly sober, it's like you don't have any skin at all. So any poke really hurts and really makes
Yes.
you react. And I think for
Because yeah,
families,
you have the clarity of a sober mind, but you're not like the sober person yet, which takes
right?
it does. It takes like a ton of time
Hmm.
to figure out like, okay, like I need to either so like for me, like it was like, okay, I have to change my environment. I have to change my spending habits. I have to change, you just have to change so many aspects of your life, but you have to do it with like a manageable way. You can't just like, okay, I'm sober for the rest of my life now. Like, if you think of it that way, you're just gonna crash and burn, man. So you just gotta be like for me, like I know they say like one day at a time. I actually break it down to one, one night at a time, which is the same thing. Like when you think of like the concept of it's the same exact thing. But if it's like 11 a.m., excuse me, if it's like 11, 12 a.m., well, p.m., whatever, and it's the afternoon, like once the afternoon hits, I always say to myself, like, I don't need a drink today. And then all of a sudden I just keep like saying that, like, I don't need a drink tonight, or I don't need a drink tonight. Because like I would always drink at night and in the day, but most of the time at night. And if I just say I don't need to drink today, like tonight, whatever, then it just feels it's like an easy way of kind of overcoming that urge to drink because you're like, well, I can do a night, dude. Like, what am I like? I can't do a night, you know? And then if you just keep doing that, that really helped me for some reason to say like, I
Yeah,
don't need to drink tonight like, after a certain hour, you
yeah,
know? It just I don't know why, but it did help me.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm the same way. I have my little tricks that I manipulate myself with, and for me, like if I'm craving, going for a run to get the lung burn helps. And
Hmm.
um,
Exercise is so huge, man. It is huge.
yeah,
If you're like in that funk, that funk, everyone knows that funk. Like everything sucks. Like everything sucks. Everything sucks. So the second everything sucks, just put on a pair of sneakers, get outside and just walk, even if it's like for 5, 10 minutes, man. Just walk, clear your head, and then come back to, and then start like what I love to do, man, is it's over there, but I have a gratitude journal and I literally start my day with like intention. So like, okay, like things I got to do, check those off. Okay, those or whatever. But in between those, before I even start making my list, I'll be like, okay, I'm grateful I'm sober. Like, boom, write that down. I'm grateful that my wife didn't leave me. Write that down. And you start like realizing like the more things that you're writing down, you're like, dude, my life is actually not that bad. Like, look at all these things that I have. And then like that gratitude, like practicing that gratitude from like the most genuine, appreciative way actually just starts bringing in more things to be uh, uh, you have gratitude towards. So it's like you just keep, even if your life sucks, I'm telling you, you got to find those little silver linings that are there. You just need to pay attention to them.
yeah,
I didn't do that. I wasn't practicing gratitude. I wasn't like, because it sounded like stupid. I'm like, I'm not gonna write down like what I'm grateful for. Like I'll just know it. No, no, no. Write them down. Just and honestly, another thing I do that I do frequently is I'll just like if I'm having a crap day and I don't know what direction I want to go in, I'll just like do a word vomit. I just start like free writing whatever is on my mind, and then I take it, rip it up, throw it away, and then start again. Okay, take it, rip it up, throw it away. And then the more I do that, I start noticing that my thoughts get a little clearer and my intentions get a little more organized. And then all of a sudden I start putting like my goals down, things I want to achieve. And then all of a sudden it goes from like this negative, really shitty place to all of a sudden this like beautiful like transition of a list of where I want to go with my life. And then you're like, what just happened? So like just doing those things, like the physical writing aspect for me is like huge. Like I swear by it, man. It because it gets all your thoughts out without you having to put much thought into it, which makes if that makes any sense. Like you're just putting whatever's on your brain in on paper and then kind of going over it and then discarding what's not helpful, what's not serving you anymore, and then working on ways to fix those things in your life. And then you'll start figuring out like those little tiny things that you're making note of. You can actually either cross off the list or start working towards like a goal in some way or another.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because those are coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what that is and what we didn't know to do
In
before.
my in our coping mechanism was booze or
Yeah.
drugs. Yeah, that was
And
mine for my whole life pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that's why guys like you and me, because I'm the same way with the gratitude things. Like, dude, I can be grateful for mustard, like I can be like,
Hmm.
how cool is it that we have mustard? You
Dude,
know,
anything,
anything.
anything, like anything. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
man, the TV turned on. Yes. Like,
yeah,
oh, like this internet. Awesome. I can go like check out a YouTube channel and like something about like staying sober. Like the littlest things, like the stupidest littlest things that you don't pay mind to. But when you're mindful and you're present and you're aware of like, okay, like let's just start from here and let's see what comes up when I put words down on a piece of paper and
yeah,
practice gratitude. Because telling you, man, the more I practice gratitude, the more blessings come back into my life. It's like
yeah,
it's not from like a self-serving place. It's from like an evolving place. It's like, how can I be a better person? Like I should call this person. I should tell them like I care about them. I should, like smile more. I should say hello to people more. Like you just start practicing these little uncomfortable things that you don't normally would do in life, and you start doing those uncomfortable things, and then you start noticing like doors opening. You start noticing people are treating you better. You start liking yourself more, and that initially is like the foundation of what a lot of substance abuse issues, at least for me, was I just didn't like who I was, man. Like I felt like a failure. I felt like a loser. I was a disappointment to everyone around me. And at the same time, I had this like weird, crazy juxtaposition of like here I am as a teacher trying to mold young minds, and and then little do they know what I'm doing at home. I'm like killing myself. That's pretty scary stuff to be in that division of your identity.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't know until I came to AA and learned these skills, like, because I'm the same way with all the gratitude stuff. I didn't know you could feel good and happy and proud and like lighthearted, even though you have tons of problems.
Hmm.
Like I always thought I had to take care of these problems and then I'll feel relief, which works. But if you can't take care of those problems, it doesn't mean you still have to feel that way. You can change that.
And there's no way of getting away from problems, man. You could be
Exactly.
Bill Gates or whatever, $1 billion on billions of dollars and still be like miserable. Like a lot of people who are very well off, they're suffering too, and like very in a very strange way. They are also suffering just as much as we are. It's just a matter of realizing that everyone's suffering. So the more good you can do in your day to others, the better off everyone will be. So just know that no matter what, that, like life is suffering. It's like the first noble truth in like Buddhism. Like life is suffering. You got to deal with it. So find out ways to make it less suffering, if that makes sense.
Yep. So take me back to like you were gonna die. I
Yeah.
thought I was gonna die. What,
Yeah.
how did you feel about that? Did you kind of, because I feel like now that I've been so close to death so many times, and then I also was like a wildland firefighter for a couple of years and like did EMT class and like pulled dead body out of the ocean and been
Wow.
around some dead people, seen some
That's
dead
intense.
dead people and um so I've been around it
Yeah.
quite a bit. My dad died too. My brother-in-law died. Um and I don't know. I used to be so like scared of like the idea of dying, and like I'm so not scared of that at all anymore. Like,
Hmm.
not that I want to, but I'm just like, oh, this is just perfectly natural, and like I'm just grateful that I get to like experience what I get to, and like I can't. I really want to see what else is going to happen. Like I want
Hmm.
to live long because I want to see what's going to happen, but I don't. I don't have any like fear of dying. I don't have any fear of hell. I don't have any fear of any of that stuff really. Like, if it happens, it happens, and I'll be sad and I'll probably cry if I get like a diagnosis, but I'm not.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel
so
connected.
dude, yeah, I hear you, man. So I was so sick, my melt score was 40. It goes up to 40. That just shows you like where I was on the transplant list and like how much I was killing myself with
What is
alcohol.
it?
It's called the meld score. So your meld score is basically they take a bunch of different areas of blood labs and stuff like that just to see how high functioning your liver is. Um, and and because that's how they place you on the transplant list, like what's their age, the support system, what's their meld score. The meld score is basically it goes from 1 to 40. A normal person's probably like in like this 5, 6, 7, 8 range, which is still high when you get up to like 6, 7, 8. You want to be low, 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 low. And when they saw that I was at 39.40, right before the transplant, like it was like, oh my God, like what did this guy do to himself? But yeah, so my MELD score was at 40. But wait, I think I was getting into something. Oh, worrying about death. So once I had my transplant, I was so sick. And the picture you saw was immediately after the transplant on that Thursday. Um, I I I woke up and I was like, I can't believe I'm alive. That was my first initial thought. And second, I was like, I started crying because I was just so happy I was alive. And I didn't feel happy to be alive for probably like 10 years, man. Like it was crazy. So all of a sudden I had all this gratitude. I was like, oh my God, like I want to be this different person. I want to change my life. I'll never, I'll never drink alcohol again. Thank God I have not since, which is awesome. But I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, of course, man, like you guys had a liver transplant. Obviously, you wouldn't drink. Dude, just because you got the liver transplant, man, like it's not like they took my brain out and gave me a different brain transplant because that's what got me in trouble in the first place.
Yeah.
So like just because you had a transplant does not make it any less valuable of your sobriety. I
Yeah.
hate when people do that, when people say those things. It's like, dude, like I am still doing everything that I have to do to stay sober because you'd be surprised at how many people do relapse after, a couple of years down the line or whatever after a liver transplant. They don't talk about it. You never hear about it. It's not on the news or anything, but it happens more often than you think. And you don't just get another liver. Like once you mess up, you're like the first one, like you're gone, man. Like you're not getting another one. So you better treat that one well. And I do. But yeah, so getting back to the death thing. So once I got the transplant, I was so sick. My kidneys were shot too. I basically drank myself to kidney failure too. So I was on dialysis even leading up to the transplant, which is crazy. So that's how sick I was. I was on a machine for 4 hours every day, um, recycling my blood. So I wake up, I get better. Like I have like all these bile duct issues. A bile duct is like where the transplant when they put it all together and like you have to get the fluid out of your system and like has to go somewhere and sometimes it gets messed up and it has to go into like they have like a little suction cup thing that takes all like the fluids out of you. So that was a huge issue. And then all of a sudden, like 3 weeks out from the transplant, and then I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I just get so confused. The room goes like blurry, and I don't know what happened. Turns out, I all of a sudden I wake up. I'm back at the hospital that I got the transplant at here in Western Massachusetts, and I'm looking up. And I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "You're going to die. Like your stomach just burst." So my stomach burst, like my colon ruptured and it burst and all the like what's in your stomach, man, all that junk all of a sudden is everywhere. And I went to septic shock for like 3 days. And within those that 24 hour of the initial breaking of the my stomach, I was in septic shock. And they were like, he's gonna, like, they were going to my wife saying like he's not gonna make the night, like he's just too sick. And that night, man, I don't know what it was. I grew up Catholic and everything, but I didn't adhere to it as much in my later years of my life. And dude, like, I don't know. I saw something, I went somewhere. I made it was like the cold. I remember it being the coldest night of my life. It was freezing. Everything was so cold, and it wasn't even cold in the room. I was just like freaking out because my body was shutting down. I was like dying and I talked to a higher power, something, the essence of the universe. I don't know what you'd call it, but it was benevolent. It wasn't bad or good. It was just what it is. And I made amends. I went through every relationship that I've ruined in my life, whether it be friendships or otherwise, and said I'm sorry from like the most genuine way possible to each one person. I got to like talk to them too, which was weird, and I could hear their voices during this whole time that I'm dying. And the next thing I know, I'm like, I come to, and it's like 3 days later from when the stomach burst, and I'm like alive, and I'm like, was it because I did that? Like I went through like that cold night of me just like suffering and dying, and I made amends of all the things I did in my life, and then all of a sudden I felt better but my body wasn't better. So what happened was because of my stomach ruptured, they have to do an emergency surgery, which saved my life. It's called a ileostomy surgery. So they took my colon, they put it on the right side of my body, put an ileostomy bag, which is as disgusting as you might think it might be. That's where you have to go to the bathroom in. And then I was like, do I have to have this forever? And they're like, probably, but we'll see how you look in 6 months. And I took those 6 months as serious as I could and went to dialysis every other day, got better, got healthier. Kidneys still weren't working. So I still was waiting for my kidney transplant, which was going to be 6 months after the hopefully the ileostomy surgery. So 6 months come, the ileostomy surgery, they said, let's try to fix it. They did it, thank God. So I go to the bathroom normal again. That was like going to be a nightmare if that happened, but it didn't. So they reversed that. It's a huge major surgery. Come out of it, and I'm like, okay, like this is have one left to do. And then 6 months later after that, I got my kidney transplant, which was back in March 16th, 2024. So that wasn't that long ago. But ever since that, I, got better, started eating better, started working out, started amending, fixing my relationships, started fixing my life, like getting a job, like going back to school, like all that stuff. Um, but it took forever, man. And tomorrow, coincidentally, I'm doing a show right now, which is great timing, is will be my 2 years sober. Which feels like longer, but I'm happy that tomorrow is the second year anniversary that I get to celebrate. Like, dude, like I've never been more than 125 days sober from like no joke, probably 15, 16. Like I was drinking very, very young, like every weekend pretty much. Um, and sometimes not even on the weekends. Like we party, like whatever. But it feels good. Like I feel like I'm a kid again, and life is exciting. Like which is I forgot about that. I forgot that we have to life is precious, man. Like you don't like what's the alternative? Not knowing what happens after you die? Like I don't want that. I'd rather take what I have now, what's in front of me, and go accomplish my goals, go out and seek whatever excites me, like pursue my passions, pursue the things that I enjoy in life because I forgot about that in addiction. Like I forgot that life was precious, that everything around us is meaningful. And if anyone watching this, like I almost died and you don't have to get that far. You can just stop now. You don't have to continue drinking.
Yeah, man, there's so much there to unpack.
And I went on a little rant there.
No, it's so good. Um, yeah, dude, everything you just said is so good. I didn't realize you had your liver transplant less than a year ago.
Kidney. Liver was May 2nd, 2023.
Oh,
Kidney was about a whole year after.
oh,
So
okay.
I had
So
to,
you
because I
live,
had that, my stomach burst. So they probably
yeah,
would have done the kidney sooner, maybe. I don't know, because I had to wait, like everyone else. You have to go on a list. You got to wait your turn. And because of my progress, because of like the work I was putting into this, of like rehabbing, like eating right, doing every single thing the doctors asked me to do, I was doing, and then some. And they saw how much work I was putting into it, that like I proved to them that like I'm going to show that getting a liver transplant can actually change your life, can just change your life. And that's what I did. I just changed my life. I started my channel. I started advocating for how terrible alcohol is and how just drugs and alcohol in general, just stay away from them. Like don't even start. Because who knows, you might end up in a hospital bed with 2 weeks left of your life. So just pursue what is meaningful to you, and get off the booze, man, because you do not want to be put in a situation where you're looking at your mother and father and saying, "I'm sorry for ruining my life."
yeah. One thing you said too that really I've said, which it's cool that you said too, is I feel like a kid again. Like I feel like
Yeah.
hobbies are coming back, my passions are coming back, and when you're using, those go away. You forget
I had
about it.
none. I had
Yeah,
none.
I
I
had
I
none.
I would I would drink and I would watch TV. I
Yeah,
would drink and I would watch mindless crap. I'd scroll on my phone. I would watch junk. I would get inundated by just morons talking left and right instead of pursuing like knowledge, pursuing betterness, like pursuing like a life worth living. Like that's what sobriety has brought me now, is a life worth living, man. And everyone deserves a life worth living. Like you're not lost, man. Like you might be lost right now, but you can find who you are again. Just get sober, just start, because life is way better, man. I could not even dream of, I'm not saying like my life is this amazing thing yet. It's not, but it's pretty great. In the alternative from where I was 3 years ago, just 250 pound mess of just like a booze bag. I get to wake up and look at myself in the mirror and smile and say like, hey man, like look how far you've come, dude. Like look at where you are and where you were. Like it is completely night and day from where I was, man. So just be grateful to be alive and appreciate everything because it can quickly go away very soon.
Yeah, it's funny because I just thought I couldn't make friends and I just don't have any passions. I didn't know those were related to drugs and alcohol. Like I thought
Yeah.
those were separate. And once I got rid of those, um, passions started coming back, hobbies started coming back, what I want to do starts coming back, that motivation to go like, oh, I want to try this or I want to try that. Started coming back. And then I've made more friends being sober than I ever did drinking, that's for sure.
And the friendships that you make sober are way more meaningful because
Way.
you're everyone is sober. So it's like your personality is either they're gonna like you or not. And if they don't, then whatever, who cares, right? Whereas when I was drinking, I didn't give a shit like if people like me or not. You know, it was just like I was just glad that I had someone to talk to when I was abusing my body to the extent that I was.
Yeah.
And so those meaningful relationships will come, which is awesome. And unfortunately, on the other end of that is the relationships that you had prior while you were using will definitely take a hit. Not in like the, oh my God, like this person won't hang out with me anymore because I'm sober. And if that bugs them, then they probably weren't your friend to begin with. Because what friend wouldn't want someone to better their lives, their own lives, you know? Um, so look out for that, but don't look at it as something to think that it's negative. It's not. It's actually going to bring light to a deeper meaning to the friendship itself.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny. I had friends for years that I would drink with and I loved dearly. But I realized I don't know them as well as I thought
Yeah.
because we were always drinking.
Yeah.
When we weren't drinking, it was kind of awkward,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like, oh, let's go drink, because it was like we ran out of things to talk about. Like it was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah. My
I
life
don't actually know this
revolved
person.
around
Thought
alcohol.
I
Like it
did.
was, if there wasn't alcohol at the event or whatever I was going to, like, forget it. I'm not going. You know,
Yeah.
that's, or I'll drink like a whole Poland Spring bottle of vodka in the car before I go into like whatever I was doing. You know, like whatever I was doing, I had to have booze in my system. And that's like a relief now. It's such a relief that I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to rely on a substance to show up in the world anymore. I can just be me. I can just jump on like your show right now. I can just be me. And that is so amazing. It's just like this peace, this calmness in your life that you go from chaos every single day to just peace. And a lot of people actually struggle with that part. It's like it's boring and not you hear that a lot when people go in this and they go I was one of the people that said that too. I'm like, man, I'm so bored. Like everything because everything's slower. You like because when you're drinking, it's just like time it's like a time machine. You're like, wait, I started drinking at 9 p.m. and it's 2 the next day. Like what just happened? But when you're sober, man, like you feel the minutes, you feel the hours, like it makes sense again. Um, and then people will associate that with boredom, but that's stupid. Don't do that because your passions, whatever you're interested in already, is still going to be there. It's just now you can actually pursue those passions with like a clear mind and in the drive to do it. Whereas when you're using, you're not going to be able to do anything, man. You can say you are, but you're not going to because your body isn't, is not functioning at 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little air gap there when you stop drinking where you are bored, but it's just
Yeah.
because you haven't found things to fill that
Yeah.
up. Now,
You just
once
got
you
to find
do,
things.
yeah, like for me, I got 3 interviews this week, and
Nice.
I just have like all these things. It's like, dude, I don't have time to drink. Like, how did I have time to do that? And it's
Yeah,
like,
and your
oh,
bank account, you'll just have more money, you'll have more energy, you'll
yeah,
feel better, you'll sleep way better. I remember that was my
yeah,
favorite
sleep's
part of
great.
getting sober was the sleep. I was like, I can't believe I feel like I haven't slept in 10 years because of
Yeah.
my alcohol addiction. Because you're getting up to piss like every 3 hours. Well, at least I was, or to puke, even worse, right? And now that I do have all this, all the time is like accounted for. And if it's not, then that's a beautiful thing. It's like I get just whatever I want to do right now. But yeah, when you're using, man, it's just there is no, you can't see the other end of it. Like I just could not imagine a life that I'm living now 3 years ago. And it's so important to know that if you just put the work in, if you just do the right thing, because everyone knows what's right and wrong. Like you know exactly, your heart just tells you when you're in a good or a bad situation. So just follow your heart, like listen to your intuition. Just say like, is this something good for me or is it not? Is it serving me anymore or is it not? And if the answer is not, then don't do it. Don't do it. Have that inner strength to be like, this sucks now, but it will eventually pay off. And I'm telling you, I'm living proof that it does pay off. Just stick with it. Don't slip up. And
You
if you
look
do
like
slip up, don't beat yourself up. Just get up the next day and start again. Because if you slip up and you say, "Oh, I'm worthless piece of shit," guess what? You're gonna keep telling yourself that, and then you will be a worthless piece of shit. If you mess up, get up the next morning and just say, okay, that was a slip, but I'm bigger than that. I'm bigger than that person that slipped up. I can start again. I can start right now. I can start today, this minute, and then just start making better choices. And that's it.
Yep, well said. I was gonna say something I forgot. Oh, the near death experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't
crazy.
heard that. I didn't know you had that.
No, I never. I don't. It's funny. Like I have this my own channel, but I've never even just done this. Like just said what's on my mind with what everything I went through because it's hard for me to do that on my own. And
Yeah,
I've struggled with doing it, but that's why I've gone on so many other podcasts and I've told my story so many times. But for me to do it, um, I think it's really important. I'm gonna put some effort into doing that. But yeah, the near death thing was pretty crazy, man. Like I don't know where I went. I felt like wherever it was very understanding. Like it wasn't judging by any means, like it almost like whatever this power that it was, call it God, whatever you want to associate it as, was something bigger than myself that I didn't know existed, even though I kind of had an idea that there was something, some higher power. But once I was there and I was saying my sorries from like the most genuine, authentic place possible, I just felt relief. And then that relief eventually led to who I am today. So that was by the grace of God, whatever, or whatever it was. I'll never forget it and I'll always appreciate it. And it's something that I think often on. And yeah, it's pretty crazy.
yeah.
I'm thinking about it again.
Yeah, I'm similar. Like, just I, I don't know. I have a whole tirade I can talk about on this, but just like humbling yourself to be like you're not smarter than like you don't need to figure out the universe and like it's okay to just believe in something different, and something higher, and it actually is the better way. It makes you feel better. It's
Yeah, it brings like there's a sense of it'll all be okay no matter what,
yeah,
and when you're in an addiction, when you're heavily in addiction like we were, it's really difficult to see that or feel
yeah,
that. But when you do feel that, it's very powerful and it's life changing.
it's life changing.
You don't have to get to a liver transplant and your stomach explode and have a night of your wife thinking you're going to die. My parents too, my brothers too, and friends and stuff. But you don't have to get there, man. You can actually just by simply practicing self-love and meditation's huge. That's a huge one. Just taking 10, 15 minutes out of your day every day and just doing like any kind of meditation, whether that be sitting in a car and doing 3 breaths in, 5 seconds out, 3 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 3 seconds in, 5 seconds out. That for me, it's like an anxiety killer. I just do that whenever I'm feeling like overwhelmed. And then I'll notice that I can start thinking again clearly.
Do you have kids?
No, no, I don't have kids, no. I have a dog, I have a puppy that we just got. But the reason why we honestly never had kids was probably because my wife didn't trust that I could be a good father. But now that I'm sober, yeah, I definitely want children. Um, Actually, I definitely want children. I know I do. And a lot of the after post-transplant, you can't really do that kind of thing, if you know what I'm getting at, because of all the immunosuppression medications that you're on. It's really difficult it's not really safe to have that. And there's all these issues that pop up. But now that 2 years, what am I? Yeah, almost 2 years, just under, a couple months under, 2 years from the liver transplant and about a year out from the kidney almost. It's I can do it now. That's the long way around saying I can have kids though.
Yeah, I never had kids 100% because of drugs and alcohol, where it just wasn't gonna like,
Well, you're lucky because a lot of people
yeah,
who do have children are still under the influence of drugs and alcohol and have made really poor choices, which then eventually hurt the people that they care about the most.
keeps
So
cycle
it's
going.
you almost dodged a bullet there in that sense that
Yeah.
you're working on yourself now instead of having to clean up that mess later with people that depend upon you.
Yeah, and that's what I'm grateful for is same thing. I used to be like, poor me, but then I'm like, oh no, that's actually like God working out in me. What I didn't see is like if I would have done it before now, it would have been a disaster.
I
Uh,
wouldn't have appreciated it as much.
no,
Mm-mm,
yeah. And like
no.
I have five nephews, and three of them I live fairly close to, and I visit quite often. And so I've got like this privilege of being able to be an uncle and kind of get the inside scoop of what having kids is really like, as opposed to what you think it's going to be like. And that really made me realize, oh, thank God I didn't have them sooner, because it would not have been, I would never be able to handle it, you know?
No.
And
Makes yeah, same.
yeah, and so now that I've got more experience and kind of gradually eased into that idea, and it's like, oh, actually, for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid to be a dad if it happens. Like I think
Hmm.
I'll actually do pretty good. But then what's crazy too is at the same time, I see value in just being an uncle, and just,
Hmm.
if it doesn't happen for me, um, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything. It's just like I'll spend my time with my nephews, and can dedicate more time to a wife, or, I'm single, but like there's other people out there. I guess what I'm getting at is like how you pictured your life going, and it doesn't go that way. It doesn't mean it's bad. Like it can actually be really good, And there's the other thing is like dating. I never thought I could date sober, dude. I was like, there's no way. And like the girls that don't drink, I never, like I don't, they're usually,
Yes.
you know, not my type. And I found that to be, I found it's so funny because I just thought everybody drank like I did, and I found so many people that are very cool that just don't drink, or just literally have no problem just having one and setting it down, and don't
Hmm.
really care if we drink or not. And
Yeah.
so getting some security there, that there are people out there that are, and I'm 39, that are in my age, that don't necessarily care that I have a good career, that don't care about my past. They're looking for somebody too, And if they're my age, maybe they don't have a drinking or drug or alcohol problem, but maybe things just didn't work out for them. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of the blessing, is like, oh, I'm here for a reason. Like if there's a reason I went through all this, and there's somebody out there that there's a reason they went through all this, and it's just going to happen later in life than it happens for other
Yeah.
people, and
And
that's okay.
you'll never know those blessings that will come into your life unless you are approaching those looking for them in a genuine way, if in a sober way.
Yep.
Because like those blessings, like you won't see them if you're encumbered by alcohol and drugs. You just
Yeah,
won't.
and it's
Yeah.
kind of like a moving target. It's like you have to stay ready, is kind of how I see it. Is like I have to
Yes.
keep staying sober and keep going to the gym and keep doing all these things, because that way when that opportunity comes, I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm not struggling to clean my room real quick, and like, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds and I need to go back to and like that just all affects your confidence. And so if you just gradually build that confidence so that you already have it when those opportunities come, and you just meet them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another
That's
motivating
good.
reason for me to stay sober, is like
Yes.
I'm preparing.
I felt like when as struggling as I was during those couple months I was sober, um, I felt better about myself, definitely. Like my confidence in like, oh, I can control like once you start realizing that you have the control over something, it's very freeing in the sense
Yeah,
that like, oh, like I can control what I'm thinking. I can control my impulses.
yeah,
And that takes work, it takes effort, and therapy and stuff like that really helped me. But Um, yeah, well, once you take control of your life, you start building that confidence, and that confidence will just radiate all, all areas of your life. So go for it, people.
Yeah. How did your relationship with your wife change, and how has that kind of gone? I mean, that must have been
Yeah, she's
a
a saint,
big thing
man.
for her to go through too, you
She's
know?
why I'm still here. She's why I'm still here for sure. Because if I didn't have anything to live for, because a lot of people when they get diagnosed with cirrhosis and they're at the liver transplant stage, a lot of them just say it's too much work. I don't like a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people in the hospital that were very similar situations that just didn't want to fight it. Because it's a ton of work, man. And the rest of my life, kind of brutal. Like I have to take meds, crazy meds, like so many meds every single morning, every single night, the immunosuppressant medications, so your body doesn't reject the organs.
Oh, is that for life?
Life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And every week, I just go back. That's where I was coming from before I jumped on here was you have to get weekly blood labs. So I just came from the blood lab place. And you have to get like 6 giant things of blood taken every week. I mean, it's the alternative's death, but
Yeah.
it's definitely like and it'll probably affect like how long I'll live. Like I'm sure I won't live to however long I was supposed to, whatever. But you never
Yeah.
know. Who knows? But yeah, it's there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into post-transplant life. It's like they say it's a new normal. It's a new normal.
Mm. Yeah, I was before you get into your wife, I just wanted did they say your life expectancy is probably less?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. They were like the lifespan of deceased because I both my organs were from deceased donors, and I don't talk about this enough. Like the whole transplant process of like showing the like that is a huge component of my sobriety too. Is like knowing that two souls like, died, and by the grace of God, they saved my life. Like that's a huge part of like why I don't drink too, like that part right there is enough to never want to drink again, knowing that you have the second a second chance at life because of two people's organs. But yeah, I guess going back to the point with my wife, yeah, so she is my saving grace. She literally is like my guardian angel. I met her at my lowest and she didn't leave. Unbelievably, she did not leave. That's the kind of person that she is. She's the most loving, caring, supportive spouse that I could ever imagine. And yeah, to your point, what is our relationship like now? You could say great. Yes, we have our ups and downs, like every relationship does, but I can safely say that the person I am now, is the person that she was waiting for all those years, and she knew it was deep down underneath that suffering that I was going through, and the alcohol abuse because of the suffering. She knew that it was a good man underneath all that, and it just needed everyone's story's crazy and everyone gets to sober in their own way. And mine was a liver transplant. I would not wish upon anyone my worst enemy. But here I am. That was my journey, unfortunately. But it was my journey, and I'm better for it after, honestly. And she can see that. Like I'm more present. I'm more mindful of her feelings. Whereas it was always me. It was always me. Very selfish. Now I'm very outgoing. I'm very aware of like our relationship. I'm always working on it. I'm always trying to improve it. I'm always trying to surprise her with little gifts and things like that, just to show just like the support of love and patience she showed to me through all those years of addiction. I'm beyond blessed, and our relationship has never been better.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I've noticed in me, like if I'm drinking, man, I just become so self-involved.
Mm-hmm.
I just I can't not be selfish. But then when I'm not, it takes a little bit, but then I become way more um concerned with others, and I get way more pleasure about helping others, and I'm way better at participating in relationships, doing my part, and surprising people, thinking of things to do, planning
Mm-hmm.
things.
You surprise yourself. Like I surprise
Yeah.
myself daily because of my sobriety. I'm like, I didn't even know I was good at that, or I didn't even know
Yeah.
that I had a talent in that, or whatever. And now that I'm pursuing all the things that are exciting to me, from like the most genuine way possible with a sober brain, I'm noticing there's way more to me than I even knew prior, and I never would have gotten there without getting sober.
Yeah, it's
And
kind of the thing that like we're kind of lucky because we went so far that we had to t address this issue. We had to change everything. Whereas people that don't go as far as we did or you did, um, maybe they can keep getting by with being that a little bit too selfish, a little bit too this, a little driving,
that's that's why for
drinking a
me,
bit
like the
too much.
transplant itself was so important, as much as it sucked and it was awful. And like I said, it could jeopardize how long I live and stuff. But that was my journey, and I can weirdly say that I'm grateful that it happened, which is crazy. I mean, who would be grateful for something? Well, that's not what I mean. I mean, obviously, I'm insanely grateful for the second chance of life. Obviously that's a given. But I'm just grateful for everything. Like I'm just so grateful now. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is
Everything
crazy.
is a
I tell
blessing
people
now.
all the time, like we're kind of the lucky ones, man. Like it's kind
Oh,
of
kind of. I'm like they gave me a
like
10 to 15% chance of living after my stomach exploded. So they were like, this guy's gone.
yeah,
And now I'm not. I'm here on this beautiful Monday morning in freezing cold New England, uh, loving it, loving it, just
yeah,
loving life again. Like I'm so happy to be back. I'm just back. I'm just back. I feel like I know who I am again. Like I'm back to knowing I'm Will again. It's awesome. I look at myself in the mirror, which I avoided looking at myself in the mirror for like 6, 7 years. That's
yeah,
how bad
me
it was.
too.
And I brushed my teeth with my eyes closed. That's what I used to do. And it's weird now. I still have to sometimes force myself to look up and say like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah,
But it's yeah, it's like that self-loathing, the hatred, like that all goes away after, once you get sober and you start working on it and you continue to work on it. It's always an evolving process. There's no just like, oh, I'm sober now, like I guess that's it. No, because then you become a dry drunk. You don't want to become a dry drunk. That's what I was. That's why my sobriety did not work. You want to become a sober person. A sober person is someone who, loves life, appreciates everything, looks at their sobriety as a blessing, not a curse. Whereas a lot of people do, like, oh, I can have fun now. It's like, no, you can still have plenty of fun, man. Trust me, you're gonna have a blast. And you're gonna remember everything. You're gonna appreciate it more because you're actually sober. You're actually gonna feel the feelings, intensely. You're not gonna be just glossing over long nights of boozing and doing whatever else comes into your life when you're boozing. Because I know for me, it was never good things that were coming in. It was only negative.
yeah, yeah. I was like you. I loved watching TV and drinking, man. It's just such a waste of time.
Such a waste of time. I look back. I had it's like think about like people have
Like
regrets.
every
Like, oh, I
show
shouldn't
and
have
every
done that,
movie.
dude. I have a regret that lasted over a decade. Like what of my prime of my life from 20 to 35 or whatever. Like I well no 25 to 35. 20 to 25 was actually great. It was actually kind of fun. But that's when but I wasn't realizing that fun would eventually lead to my demise. So even if it is fun, you're having a good time drinking, like it does not end well. Trust me. Uh, be mindful of your drinking, even if you think it is fun. Look at the things like I was saying at the very beginning of the episode of like, is it altering your life negatively in any aspect whatsoever? And if it is, note that, make changes, address the changes.
Well, back from the dead, a true zombie.
Back from the dead, man.
Yep,
Here I am.
made
It's
it.
beautiful. It's great.
Yeah,
It's great to be alive.
great to be alive. You look like
Yeah.
a different person. It's so crazy. I'll
I know it's
hopefully
crazy.
you can go to your
It's crazy. I
report.
do look like a different. If you were to look at the pictures of me,
I'll
or
link
whatever I
all
got
your
on my
stuff.
channel,
People
it's
can see it. It's
nuts.
crazy. Yeah, you look like a completely different person. It's so funny if somebody met you now, they'd be
Oh
like,
yeah, I get it all the time. People are like,
"What?
what do you mean? Like, you didn't. I'm like,
Yeah, like
yeah, I did, dude. Like, I'll just
check
like I
this
have like
out."
my dialysis port scar right
Yeah,
there. I have all the scars to prove
you
it,
have a
and like
gnarly
I did
scar.
it. I'm really
Yeah.
there. I'm really that guy.
Do you
Yeah,
have a gnarly scar from the transplant, or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I don't. It's kind of. I don't really want to.
whip it
Yeah.
out? Oh
Oh, you
shit!
can see it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
It's like
freaking out about it.
it's like they call it a Cadillac sign. So like it's like all surgeon based, like whatever they like to do. Sometimes they do like a triangle looking thing. Sometimes they do like almost like a happy face thing. But mine was like a because I had a kidney, which is this side, and I had liver, which is over here. So it's a mess. But it's actually kind of because I'm, putting skin products on it and I'm like healing the way I should. I'm eating right, all that good stuff. It's healing way faster. And there's always going to be that giant mess down there. But I look at that with reverence. I'm like, that's my story and
Yeah,
it's okay. Like I have no problem taking off my shirt or whatever at the beach.
yeah.
Although after transplant, can't really have sun. That sucks. So you have to wear like sun shirts because your body is going through the immunosuppressant medication. It lowers like your ability to fight off things. So skin cancer is like a really popular thing. So you have to be really mindful of like being out in the sun too much because it's very common to get skin cancer right after transplant.
No way.
Years, the rest of your life. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Not many people know that one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, cool, man. Well, I'll wrap up because I know we both got stuff to do, but yeah, man, I love talking to you. I'd love to have you on again and catch up. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing.
Same. Same.
That's when you talk to other addicts, it's like an immediate connection of just like
Always.
there's an
Always.
understanding that we went to a level that
Always.
most people aren't
Always.
gonna.
Every person I meet in recovery is like ends up being like, and I always say the same thing like you just said. Like I'm like, oh man, we're gonna be buds because you connect. Like that's what people don't understand. Like when you say what bothers you or what gives you fear, like whenever you become vulnerable, like that word you hear it all the time. Sometimes it gets like, oh, enough of that word. But whenever you're genuinely vulnerable, that's when the connection actually blossoms because that's where friendships are made. That's where wives are created from. Like that's where, husbands are made, whatever. It's like all those beautiful things in life that we crave and seek out actually comes from being super vulnerable with what bothers you, which is like strange. It's like the opposite of the thing because everyone wants to be cool looking, everyone wants to be thin and jacked. And dude, just say what's like your faults are, and then all of a sudden you'll get like a ton of positive response back because everyone is going through the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I always feel like we're veterans of the addiction war, like we all have this understanding of what that war is like and we
Yeah.
all went through our own way of it, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't know. Well, cool, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
having me
Well,
on.
it's been been a blast talking with you, buddy. I'm really glad that I came on, and I want to see your show keep getting going up, going up, going up. So hit subscribe, hit like, share, all that good stuff.
Hell
And if
yeah.
you ever want, come on, check on my channel too, the
Yeah.
Willpower Podcast.
Yeah, and I'll put all your socials and everything in the description so people can find you. Willpower
Beautiful.
Podcast, Will, you're the man.
You're the man.
You're the man. All right. That's